Let's do it.
Here we go.
We're rolling, so quiet.
Guess what? You know more chords than you think you know. It's true. A lot of these hard chords that you see when you look at chord charts, it's just a chord inside of a chord. And today we're going to explore that a little bit, and I'm going to open your ears up a little bit to some sounds that at first you might go, I don't know if I like that, but the more you play it and the more you kind of get familiar with it, the more comfortable you're going to get with it, and it might end up being some of your favorite stuff. So we'll talk about that in a second, but today we're going to start off with tension and release. Beautiful music, and it's out there, and we love it, and that's why we're here. Beautiful music. The beauty in music, I believe, exists in the transition from tension to release. I mean, that'll preach right there of itself. That's life in general. I mean, you know, quit praying for your problems to go away and start praying that you overcome it and learn the lesson that got you there in the first place, so that not only you can be an overcomer, but you can help someone else, right? And that's what I'm going to do for you today, is I'm going to show you something that I didn't get until later in life. And once I really got a hold of this, this has changed my playing forever. It's going to simplify a lot of things for you. And it's also going to give you a confidence that maybe you didn't have up until this point. And the kind of confidence I'm talking about is knowing what to play and also having options, so that when you have, you know, a chord in front of you or even a piece of music in front of you, that you know what the tonal center of that music is, meaning what the greatest point of resolution of that is. You know what to play over that, and you got options. So without much further ado, here we go. So here's my pick. I was looking for that thing. We're going to talk about the key of A. I'll take you a quick drink of coffee here first. I guess I need to pour some in my cup here. Let's see. This is probably enough. I'm brewing coffee these days. I'm using this pour over, and this is new for me. Speaking of tension and release, boom, that goes right there. This goes in here. Tension and release. What does that mean in music? Well, okay, so we're going to talk about the key of A. In the key of A, like every other key, there are tension chords and release chords. The release chords are going to be the 1, the 3, and the 6. And at this point, a graphic pops up. Doing, right? And then we're going to talk about the tension chords. And in fact, today, really our focus is on these 4 tension chords. The 2, the 4, the 5, and the 7. Right? Hopefully that looked good and worked out. So, why are we talking about this? And why do these things matter? And why are they grouped this way? Well, they're grouped this way because they share a lot of the same notes. You know, an A major 7, you can look at that as basically it is a C sharp minor over A, right? The same way, and you'll see here in just a second, a G sharp minor 7 flat 5 is really just a B minor with G sharp in the bass. And all of a sudden, even when I say that, that ought to be like, oh, really? I didn't know that. Yeah. And it's that way for all minor 7 flat 5 chords. And it's that way for all major 7 chords. And really, it's that way for all these chords, is that there's some basic, and I hate to use the dirty word, but I'm going to use it. Buckle up, here it comes. It's the basic math of it, right? These things have a relationship. And so today, what I want to do is, the focus of today is I want to expose your ear to these sounds, and I want you to get these chord shapes in your hands. You'll never be afraid of a minor 7 flat 5 chord again. And also, you're going to have plenty of creative ideas to do over chords, because you know how these chords fit and interlock with one another. And again, we're just chipping away the ice that's around the tip of the iceberg, okay? So this is a good introductory lesson. So without further ado, first, let's just make sure that you know all the chords in the key of A. Okay, because I want to have that down. Maybe you just started playing guitar and you're like, Lord have mercy, I'm barely keeping up here. Well, let's just get this in our hands for right now. So let's just do this good old-fashioned first position, A major 7. You got your index finger on the G string, first fret. You got your middle finger on the second fret of the D. You got your ring finger on the second fret of the B. And you're going to play from the A string all the way down. That's what you do when you play a major 7 chord. Now, B minor 7. I like this one. This is a good little shape. I'm going to show you how to do a different one here in a second. This is going to be index finger on the second fret of the A. We're going to skip the D. And we're going to put our middle finger on the 2nd fret of the G and pinky on the 3rd fret of the B. You can use your ring finger if you want to. I like pinky, and you'll see why in just a second. But you can use your ring. Now, when we slide this up to C sharp minor 7 flat, or C sharp minor 7, this is why I use my pinky. I want my pinky on the 5th fret of the B. I want my ring finger on the 4th fret of the G, my index finger on the 2nd fret of the D, and then my middle finger on the 4th fret of the A. This is a big deal in terms of shapes to remember, because there's a whole Chords and Coffee lesson we could do just on this shape and all the cool activities you can do with that. Okay, moving on. D major 7. Index finger on the 5th fret of the A. You can just play that note if you want to, or you can lay them down flat and play all of them, and then put your ring finger on the 7th fret of the D, middle finger on the 6th fret of the G, pinky on the 7th fret of the B. Now this one, E7, this is going to be ring finger. It's going to be on the 7th fret of the E, of the A string on the E note. Middle finger is going to be on the 6th fret of the D, pinky is going to be on the 7th fret of the G, and then index finger is going to be on the 5th fret of the B. Now F sharp minor. Let's take that index, put it on the 9th fret of the A all the way across to the high E, human capo. And then middle finger is going to be on the 10th fret of the B, and then ring finger is going to be on the 11th fret of the D. And now G sharp minor 7 flat 5. This is going to be the 11th fret of the A, index finger. Ring finger on the 12th fret of the D, middle finger on the 11th fret of the G, and then pinky on the 12th fret of the B. Now let's resolve this thing. A major 7, index finger across the 9th fret of the G, the B, and the high E, and then your ring finger on the 11th fret of the D. Remember just a second ago I said A major 7 is C sharp minor over A. And A major 7, you can look at that as basically it is a C sharp minor over A. There's a C sharp minor right there. Now put an A in the bass. 12th fret with the pinky. Here's another one. This be a A major 9. This is going to be 12th fret with the middle finger on the A string, index on the 11th fret of the D, pinky on the 13th fret of the G, and then ring 12th fret of the B string. And you can play the high E if you want to. Listen to that. That's pretty stuff, right? So that's all the chords the key of A has to offer. And when we group those chords, again, into release, that's going to be the 1, so A major 7, the 3, C sharp minor 7, the 6, F sharp minor 7. Then what's left over is the tension. Now, friends, I submit to you that your biggest return on investment, your biggest bang for your buck as far as your time. I know some of y'all, look, sometimes it's just hard to find time to pick up guitar and to practice, right? This is one of those things that when you feel like, man, I need to practice something. This is a great thing to practice. Well, how do I practice that? I'm going to give you a bunch of chords just now. I say a bunch. I'm going to give you 4 variations on each of the 4, right? So you can do the math. You're going to have a bunch of chords, right? And when you're done with this, my hope is that you'll practice this in 3 different ways. Way number 1, just practice changing the chords. Get them in your hands. Just know where they're at. Be able to move them around, right? Way number 2, and this is probably the biggest deal, is be able to connect these chords and see the connection. Remember that movie, The Matrix? Remember when Neo finally sees the Matrix at the end of the movie? I'm sorry if I just spoiled it for you, but there's this movie called The Matrix, and this guy, he sees the Matrix at the end of the movie. And he sees like the binary code. This is kind of like that. This is that moment where as you see these chords connect on the guitar neck, this is like a really big deal, like where all of a sudden it's like, oh, I get it. Because a lot of times, one of the biggest challenge for us as guitar players is how do I get up and down the neck skillfully, but also confidently? Where like, I know where it's at. What's the difference between skill and confidence, Nate? That's a great question. Sometimes you can have something in your hands that sounds really good, but you have no idea what it is that you're doing. When you know what it is you're doing and why it works, that's when that confidence gets in there. And I want you to have that, okay? So with that, Here's a bunch of chords, okay? And again, if you want the chord chart, just email me, natewhite@palenmusic.com. Or you know what? We can probably put it in the comments of this or the description or something like that. So I want you to have it. But I want you to be able to practice getting between them. And the third way to practice this is if you have a song that you're playing that has a quality of these chords, even if it's in a different key. Now you know some different inversions that you can play. And that sometimes is a huge game changer when it comes to developing confidence for that. So without further ado, we're going to take the 4 tension chords in the key of A, and I have chord charts for these if you want them. So that's going to be the 2, B minor, the 4, D, the 5, E, and the 7, G sharp minor 7 flat 5. So B minor, D major 7, E dominant 7, and then G sharp minor 7 flat 5. Let's start with B minor because I want to show you how cool the relationship between this and the 7th is. But let's start with the 2nd. So here's 4 different ways to play this. We just did this one a second ago. Now let's do this one. Index finger across the A string to the high E. Human capo, 2nd fret, straight across. Now middle finger on the 3rd fret of the B. And then ring fingers on the 4th fret of the D. B minor. And now this one. I always like this one because this one... Is that Sheryl Crow, Favorite Mistake? That's what it sounds like. Maybe it might be. Anyway, I just like this shape because you get the bass note and you get the high note, or the top 3 strings, and it just sounds like, I don't know, it just sounds soulful to me, like Motowny. Middle finger is going to be on the 7th fret of the low E. You're going to skip the A and the D, and you're going to place your ring finger on the G, the B, and the high E. Just like that. Ain't nothing to it, just do it. This one's kind of cool because this one kind of has, to my ear, kind of a surf rock kind of. And it's easy to give a kind of a heavy vibrato to because it's on the top 4 strings. So index finger is going to be on the 10th fret of the high E. Pinky is going to be on the 12th fret of the B. Middle finger is going to be on the 11th fret of the G. And then ring finger is going to be on the 12th fret of the D. You don't have to shake it, but I don't know. Feels like you oughta. You don't have to shake it, but it feels like you oughta. Did I just write the 2nd verse to a really cool song? Anyway, there's that one. The next one. This one's a little stretchy, but you could do it. And this one is one of those chord shapes that sort of immediately offers a lick, just like even right when you see it. Right? So you got your ring finger is going to be on the 14th fret of the A. Your middle finger is going to be on the 12th fret of the D. And then your index finger is going to be on the 11th fret of the G. And pinky is going to be on the 15th fret of the B. If you're playing an acoustic, that's going to be a tough grip. So you don't have to do that one if that one is too hard to get up there too. One more reason to get yourself an electric. Moving on. So then after that, let's go to G sharp minor 7 flat 5. Why? Because, like I said earlier, a minor 7 flat 5 chord is just a minor chord of some kind with a different bass note on it. Case in point, make yourself a B minor right here, but we're going to make it this time with our ring finger on the 4th fret of the D, our pinky on the 4th fret of the G, and then our index on the 3rd fret of the B string. Middle finger's doing nothing right now, trying not to be offensive actually. And then now this middle finger is going to go on the 4th fret of the low E. And that's your G sharp minor 7 flat 5. If I scoot this up, that's an A minor 7 flat 5, right? And all that is a C minor over A. Or if I scoot it back, that's a G minor 7 flat 5. All that is a B flat minor over G. I don't know about you, but that when I really got that principle, it just made that chord so less intimidating for me. The first time I heard it as a kid, I was playing, maybe I didn't treat you quite as good as I should have. Right? You were always on my mind. Maybe I didn't play that chord quite as much as I should have. Right? There's nothing to that chord, and it's beautiful. And there's tons of applications. Never, ever, 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 never fear a minor 7 flat 5 chord again. Let's get some more shapes. What about index finger on the 6th fret of the D, and then let's use our ring finger on the 7th fret of the G, the B, and the high E. Right? Same thing. And if you watch our dominant 7 lesson, you know, we made a B minor right here. Let's make a B minor right here. Change our fingers up to make that a little more comfortable. Index finger on the high E and the B and the G of the 7th fret. Middle finger is going to be on the 9th fret of the D, and then pinky is going to be on that G sharp on the 11th fret of the A. And then finally, good old-fashioned minor 7 flat 5, index finger on the 11th fret of the A, ring finger 12th fret of the D, middle finger 11th fret of the G, and then pinky is going to be on the 12th fret of the B. There's 4 different minor 7 flat 5 shapes. Yeah, if all you did was get that, and you might go, well, Nate, that chord doesn't sound that good to me. I don't like it. That chord, when you really get the revelation of that, you know, how many songs do you play where you have a minor? I'm going to resist the urge to go down this rabbit hole. I can see the rabbit hole. It looks inviting to me. There's probably a carrot down there. I'm not going to go down the rabbit hole, okay? But just know that that chord comes up a lot. And we'll get into that later. Trust me on that. Moving on. So we did the B minor 7. We did the G sharp minor 7 flat 5. Let's do the D major 7 and the E dominant 7, and we'll wrap this thing up. So here's some D major 7 chord shapes. Index finger is going to go on the 2nd fret from the high E to the G. Right? Across those 3. Now ring finger is going to go on the 4th fret of the D, and then pinky on the 5th fret of the A. Well, wait a second. What does that look like? That's an F sharp minor over D. Nate, I thought you said F sharp minor belonged to A. It does, in the key of A. Friends, every key has at least 2 major chords, the 1 and the 4, and then 3 minor chords, right? The 2, the 3, and the 6. Again, we're just at the tip of the iceberg. So just know, as we're exploring these ideas, if you're ever sitting on an F sharp, I can play A ideas, I can play D major ideas. I can play E major ideas because it's the 2nd, right? That's a whole other Chords and Coffee. I'm telling you, there's huge return on this. Just stay with me. So D major 7, right? Now let's go to this guy. We did this one just a second ago. Index finger straight across the 5th fret from the A to the high E. Ring finger on the 7th fret of the D. Middle finger on the 6th fret of the G. Pinky on the 7th fret of the B. Now what about this one? This is a great one. This one's really, it's like a B minor 9. And the only D is like right here in the middle of the chord. But you can still think of this as a D major 7. It's just got the A in the bass, right? So index finger on the D string all the way across to the high E on the 7th fret. 7th fret, doink. And then pinky's going to be on the 9th fret of the high E. Now if that one's not pretty enough for you, this one will be. Another D major 7, index finger on the 9th fret of the high E. Middle finger, B string, 10th fret. Ring finger, 11th fret of the G, and then pinky is on the 12th fret of the D. Like little stairways, little stair steps to just pure happiness. Right? By the way, that little lick, 12th fret, pull every note off chromatically straight down. You'll be doing that for the rest of the day. What are you doing in there? I don't know, but I'm happy. Right? So there's 4 different ways to play D major 7. Now let's get this E dominant 7 in our hands. Folsom Prison E. Index finger on the 1st fret of the G. D is open. Middle finger's on the 2nd fret of the A. Play them all, friend. That's a working man's chord. Now, index finger is going to be on the 2nd fret of the D. Ring finger is going to be on the 4th fret of the G. And then middle is going to be on the 3rd fret of the B. And then pinky is going to be on the 4th fret of the high E. Led Zeppelin, Lemon Song, that What is that? Wait a minute. Wait. It's been a while since I played that, but you've got that one part at the very end where it speeds up and goes. That's that chord. It's just up a whole octave. Okay, another E7. Back to this one. The swampy E. Thank you, Creedence Clearwater Revival. Right? Index finger on the 5th fret of the B. Pinky's going to be on the 7th fret of the G. Middle finger's going to be on the 6th fret of the D, and then ring finger 7th fret of the A. And then finally, index finger on the 7th fret from the A all the way to the high E. You know, I always think of Pearl Jam Black, that song. If you don't know that song, it's a beautiful song. You should check it out. Ring finger is going to be on the 9th fret of the D, and pinky's going to be on the 9th fret of the B. Index finger straight across the 7th fret with the open E on the bass. So there's a bunch of chords. What do I do with this, Nate? Just know a couple of things. Number one, if you have an idea that works over one of those chords, it works over all of those chords. All of them. Bold statement. What'll happen is you will play an idea at some point and you go, I don't think this works. And the reason for that is you need to work that idea because the math supports it working. It's just you're going to have to change the phrasing of it and you're going to have to listen to it differently. I'm going to let that sit for a second. Take a quick drink of coffee. What do I mean by that? Well, so all these chords are in the key of A. A major should work over all of these. The way that you could practice this is, again, practice connecting the dots between all these chords, but also practice putting a couple of these chords together, just going back and forth, or even just playing them one note at a time. If I play a B minor, you know, if I just go and play this one note at a time, and I play it over an E in the bass, so in my mind, just then I'm thinking B minor, G sharp minor 7 flat 5, and a D major while I'm keeping that low E going. That's a simple, quick, off-the-cuff example of all of these things working together. And I'm telling you, if you invest some time in practicing this and get this in your hands and get confident with transitioning from one chord to the next, or even like colliding these different chords and practice playing them together, you're going to start to ask some questions that start to open some doors that get your ear willing to accept more tension and more tension inside of your resolution. Did you watch the Dominant 7 lesson? If you didn't, you should, because this will make more sense if you watch that. There's a lot to unpack with this, and we're just getting started. If you have questions, those questions are really important, not just to me, but I guarantee you there's somebody watching out there right now that wishes you would ask that question. Sometimes your question, makes it possible for someone else to have the bravery, if that's the wrong word, how about just the willingness to type a comment and go, what about this? Your questions become the crystallized coffee grounds that brew each and every loving cup of Chords and Coffee every single week. So your questions are important. Your subscribing to this channel is important. So please hit that subscribe button if you haven't already. Friends, I don't know if you know about this, but we're trying to encourage one another to be better guitar players, better musicians, and better humans because we're living life the best we can with a guitar in our hand. And we're doing that every single day. And we're meeting up here every Saturday morning, 9 a.m. on YouTube for another Chords and Coffee. We will see you next week.